of tutorial that we're going to be going over is just kind of a live demo of the different systems we use here at the Red Cross. So we're going to go ahead and start off. Oh, and if everyone can put themselves on mute, I just get a little bit of feedback. Excellent. Okay, everyone. So in this kind of tutorial that we'll end up doing, and we'll appreciate your feedback at the end. Again, this is a pilot version of this session, is going to be going over volunteer connection, Edge, the exchange, a little bit of information on Microsoft Teams, how to download it, what that all looks like, and just a quick snapshot of RC View. So again, no need to keep your camera on for this session. I'm actually going to turn mine off. What we've noticed with Microsoft Teams is sometimes there's bandwidth challenges when too many folks' cameras are on, and I just want to make sure everyone can properly hear me. So thank you again for joining us. And if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat as well. I'm also going to ask John Mayer, who is my training lead, to also maybe help me keep an eye on that if that works for you, John. Perfect. All right, everyone. Again, my name is Ashley Turner. I'm the Disaster Workforce Engagement Manager for the Colorado-Wyoming region. Welcome again. Thank you so much for joining. So one of our first systems I want to talk about today is Volunteer Connection. It is a system where we house a lot of our information. It is our primary communication method as we put information out, where you can locate training, where you can update your profile, all of those good things. So I want to walk through a couple of key tabs on Volunteer Connection. The first one is My Profile. So the My Profile section, I'm going to wait for it to keep on going. The My Profile section of Volunteer Connection for Disaster Cycle Services keeps keeps some key information. So obviously your address is important for us to have on file for us to communicate with you, as well as making sure that your primary email and your phone number is also listed. If you get a Red Cross email and you want to keep your information all organized and in one spot, definitely make sure to keep your primary email address in there if you want to have that be your Red Cross email. You can also include a secondary email as well. I will say, as a disaster, if you do deploy to a disaster relief operation, all communication does go to your primary email account. So just one thing for you to be aware of. Some other important things just to make sure you always have updated in your personal information section is your emergency contact information. So your emergency contact information, as you can see, I definitely need to update mine, but that is important for us just in case something might happen. We have to get a hold of a friend or a family member for you. Other key things I just want to make sure that you point out. If you do like to deploy with the Red Cross, under the Disaster Cycle Services area under My Profile, there are some sections that you can fill out. If you have an accommodation plan, we want to be able to support that if you do deploy. So please put that information in there, and you can add different sections in there. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. I just wanted to point that section out. That is a new section that we have in Volunteer Connection. Your disaster responder availability is very important if you want to deploy. So I see several familiar folks here who deploy on operations. So making sure that if you want to deploy either within the region, outside the region, virtually, that has to be updated. Otherwise, members of the deployment team don't know that you have an interest in deploying, and you won't actually receive a call. So to update your disaster responder availability, you'll just put in your information here. So let's say I want to deploy starting maybe next week, and then maybe you want to have it at least included for about 2.5 weeks worth of time frame, just so you know. That's kind of our standard. And then you can select if you only want to deploy within the region, which is Colorado, Wyoming, within the state, so Colorado or Wyoming, depending on which state that you live in. The division, so our division is very large. Our division includes Colorado, Wyoming, obviously, the entire state of Texas, as well as Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico. So if you only want to deploy within the division, you can put that in there, obviously national. And if you're only interested in deploying virtually, you can also put that in there. And if you have certain dates that you know that you're available, you can also put those in there if you know certain time blocks. And if you want an automatic email to go to you when your availability is about to expire, you can go ahead and click that and then go ahead and hit save changes. So one thing I want to point out about the disaster respondability section in Volunteer Connection is actually you will not have that drop down unless you have what's called a group activity position, a gap. If you have further questions on that, you can always reach out to myself or the fantastic Sheila Walsh, the fantastic Julie DeSena, or Tony Suarez. So those are all places that you can go when it comes to questions about what your group activity position is. If you've deployed with your organization before, you can see your DR history, your DRO history, disaster relief operation history. One thing I forgot to mention, if I do sometimes speak in acronyms, please feel free to stop me. I definitely want to make sure I am explaining all of those. I often speak in acronyms. So you can see here, these are my various deployments I have been on, and kind of goes back from when I started with the organization, because I started prior to 2013. Okay. And you can also see if you had a question about whether you do or do not have a gap. My dog is bumping my shoulder, so I apologize for that. Your group activity position, your gap, you can see here. So my gaps are as a staff services, and then my different roles that I have here. Okay, so that is some information as far as to check out in my profile. So I'm going to go back up here to the My Chapter tab. We are currently updating this section in Volunteer Connection, but this is a great place when our volunteer services team is actually updating this as we speak. So you can see, let's go to the Northern Colorado, and you can see Northern Colorado contacts, and you can see who key leadership is within your chapter. This, again, this is not correct. We are updating it. Our volunteer services team is updating that now, but I just wanted to point this out. This section is going to be, so if you're like, who's who in the zoo, you can definitely reference this when we get this all updated shortly. So another section I'd like to point out in Volunteer Connection is under the My Shifts tab, our events and trainings. If you're looking for ways to get engaged with the organization, this is an excellent spot to check things out and what we've got going on. So a lot of what we have on here are open to everyone in the region. If you wanted to join any training that we have coming up, definitely feel free to check this out. Some of our training opportunities are sometimes limited, so you can see if there's space in different trainings that we have coming up. So for example, if you want to take logistics and overview, we have several spots for that next week. So if you're interested in signing up, I definitely encourage you to do so. Okay, so one other section I also want to point out under my groups is this section under All Colorado Wyoming Region. Depending on what position you have assigned with the organization, you'll be assigned in different groups. So it's a great way to stay connected to your peers. But this is one I always like to point out because we often put updated information in this section for disaster cycle services. So if you go ahead and you can check out under files, and if you're looking for new tools and resources, you can go under here under disaster responder tools. And that's where we put some different information in here. So as I said, I like to talk in acronyms. So we have an acronym listing in here. I'll talk about this a little bit later too. Sometimes we have flash issues with launching trainings in Edge. So there's a quick little one-pager on how to fix that issue and a few other things. So if you take FEMA classes and you want to learn how to register for a FEMA course and get your SID number, you can go ahead and launch that video that is right there. So another good place to kind of check out in Volunteer Connection. So I am going to go ahead and pause and see if there are any questions about kind of the brief overview I just did of Volunteer Connection, and then we'll move on to our next system, which is the exchange. Perfect. One thing I will also say is that another good, if you like Volunteer Connection, there is also an app that you can download, and there is a lot of the same interfaces that you can see, so you can log your hours. I'll actually go over that right now before I jump to the exchange. So if you go on your home page, I'll actually showcase a few of these fun little tabs down here. So if you want to add your hours in here, you can go ahead and do that right here in this section. Something you can also do in the Volunteer Connection app that you can download from the Google Play Store, or you can also download it from your App Store on your iPhone. So enter your hours, say you worked 1 hour for this training with me. This is RC Systems 101. And this is a worked hour because this counts as a training. Putting it as this position. And then if you want to enter any comments, you definitely can. And then you can just go ahead and submit your hours. So I'm just going to X out of that. But it's that simple. One other section that I think is really cool to really point out, if you always have a question, we'll also talk about this in RC View a little bit later. But if you want to just know what disaster relief operations are happening right now throughout the country, you can kind of click on this button right here. I'll go back in there where it says disaster relief operations. So we actually have 61 happening right now across the country. And this neat little map pops up, and you can click on the map and it will tell you what operations are happening. So in Warrens Robins, Georgia, we have a multifamily fire. There's been a lot of activity right now in Texas. So you can see the Gulf Coast blizzard that we have opening up and the other Texas operations that we have. So if you're curious about what's going on in the country, you can definitely, this is one way to access that information. Okay. So I'm going to go into one other section.
Ashley?
Sure. Yeah.
This is Julie. Just the one that may want to mention is the national headquarters in the IT tab.
Oh, that was actually, thanks, Julie. Actually, before I jumped around, that's actually where I was going. Great minds think alike. Awesome. So in Volunteer Connection, you'll see this nifty little computer icon right here. So this connects to the IT desk. So what this link will actually do is tell you the different IT support that you have as a volunteer. So if you need to submit an IT ticket, this will route you to the different ways. If you're having an issue that's immediate, I definitely encourage folks to just go ahead and pick up and call the IT number. They are very helpful. They want to be able to support you. So that is definitely one thing I want to point out. We are also, I don't want to give too much information on this. We're actually developing another team. It's called our Regional Application Support Team. It's called RAST. More information to come down the road on that. But that is going to be another support system for our volunteers when it comes to their technology needs. But in the meantime, I definitely encourage anyone to go ahead, and if you have IT issues, to go ahead and call that 1-800 number, 1-800 number, the 188 number. I don't want to give the wrong information. Okay, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and pause and make sure I did not forget anything here or answer any other questions about Volunteer Connection. Excellent. Okay. All right. So I want to go into our next system, which can be quite overwhelming, but there's a lot of really good information for you to be empowered here as a volunteer. So it's called the exchange. So the exchange is what I often refer to as our intranet. There's a lot of information in here, but definitely a resource if you want to know new things that are happening. For example, the COVID-19 Topic Hub, information about our home fire campaign, and new things that are coming out from national. This is a really great way to find that information. But if you're also just wanting information, you're a new volunteer and are just curious about you're going to be working in the field of sheltering and you're like, what goes on? Let me find some information about mass care, for example. So go ahead and search mass care, and then you can find this handy little toolkit here. And then this will lead you to all things mass care. And yes, Julie, I will go ahead and we will do that. So excellent. I will definitely do that. So if there's a lot of information out here on the exchange, but it is all right here at your fingertips. It is very sensitive, I will say, about information. So some ways that I definitely like to make sure I am following things. So if I'm searching for something, we'll go back to mass care, for example. And then you want to maybe just say, I just really want to know what's been updated recently. So you can set some time parameters in there so you don't get information from, oh, I don't know, maybe the year 2013, because it might be outdated, for example. So you can go ahead and filter that as well. So lots of really good information on the exchange in here. If you want to learn a little bit more about our different areas and services, you can click here, going under our services as well. So again, the exchange has a lot of information in here. Definitely a way to kind of empower yourself as a volunteer. And you'll hear this as you start with us, like, oh, it's in the toolkit. How do I get to the toolkit? So I would definitely encourage you to go ahead and connect to the exchange and search, for example, Mass Care Toolkit, if that's something you might be looking to learn about. So as I go in, before I go to our next system, which is going to be Edge, do I have any questions? Okay, perfect. So how you access Edge is a little different. You should see, so on my page, I have to access it a little bit differently, but you'll see it in this section right over here on volunteer connection. So that will link you right into Edge. So Edge is our learning platform. When you get into Edge, this is what your screen will look like. And I just want to make sure there's no questions. Fabulous. So when you go into Edge, there's a handy dandy search bar right here. So let's say you're looking for a class. Let's look for maybe shelter. Let's look for shelter supervisor, right? So you see when I looked up shelter supervisor, it has this what's called almost like a calendar looking icon. So that means that this class is a virtually instructed class. And then you can see when this class might be open. So you can see on February 28th, this section is available. There is a wait list for this class. And so you can see if there is additional ones that are opening up. If you're interested in a class, I'm going to go ahead and try to find this. Hold on one second. Let me go back. Apologize, something isn't quite working here. I apologize, that is not working. Okay, well, my interface still does look a little different because I do have administrative access, but I do want to just kind of go over a couple of what the different icons look like in Edge. So if you go to, let's go to our COVID. Let's go to our mass care sheltering supervisor. So this is what's called a curriculum. So the curriculum will have what will show a book icon on there. So what you'll want to do if you want to take all of the classes for, let's say, a shelter supervisor, you can go ahead and open the curriculum and it will show you all the different classes that are required. You can go to view details, will show you everything that is required. And then what it will actually show you is where your progress is completed to completing those classes. So for me, for example, it is showing that I need to take the new shelter fundamentals class to make sure if I want to get trained as a shelter supervisor trainee. And then what this also shows me is this other icon I wanted to point attention to, which is this online class. So if you see a computer icon, that just shows it is a virtual class, so you can take that at any time at your leisure. It is not a it is not a scheduled class where you would take it in a virtually assigned in an in-person way, if you will, with a live instructor. And I do want to point out one thing. I think that this should work because I'm sharing my entire screen. So if I launch this class, bear with me. There we go. That's not what I want. That's okay. I will go to this video right here. And so let's say I want to launch this class and for some reason it's getting stalled. So this is where that flash player icon definitely sometimes comes into play. We don't have this issue too much, but how you would want to fix that is, and I will send that one pager out to everyone because it seems to not want to work right now. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to point out is in Edge, you can see your transcript. So the classes that you've taken. So you can see all the different trainings I've started, things I've been interested in taking as well. Okay. Any questions on Edge, on how to search for any of that? Just wanting to make sure I'm answering questions because sometimes I do go a little fast.
Ashley, this is John.
Thanks, John.
Let's see. I didn't see who put it in. They were talking about assigning new volunteers classes in Edge. And also I wanted to mention that most people find it very difficult to get to Edge unless they go through Volunteer Connect. If you take the URL and try and go straight in, it doesn't work very well. You need to use the single sign-on in Volunteer Connect.
Great. Thank you so much, John, for pointing that out. Sometimes when you take new trainings, you might be getting sent them, and they have what's called a deep link that will give you that sometimes a single sign-on issue. So if you do have that issue, you do have various team members who can support you. But as John mentioned, that it is definitely easier to access some trainings in Edge if you're going right through Volunteer Connection. And Julie, maybe if you want to just briefly talk about the process that you use in Northern Colorado on how they assign people training.
Yeah, so I assign for all the new volunteers come on. So let's say you're going to be a shelter member. I assign all the classes that are required to become a shelter SA and get your GAP. And then all you have to do is to log into Edge and go to your transcript box, and they're all there ready for you to launch. So they would show up like you can see in Ashley's, and then you can just launch them and start taking your classes. So it's just one thing we do a little different in NOCO just to save you having to look for all the classes. And then I track all your training, and when I see your training's done, then I change you from a trainee to a member. And then we get you going forward.
Great. Thank you so much, Julie. And I see a question from Blaine and Kay in the chat. So if we complete a training course and it shows under our transcripts, do we need to add that training time under our hours or not? The answer is yes. So you take the training in Edge or whatever platform it is, maybe it's a live instructor, please do add your hours in there for that.
Julie, Ashley?
Yes.
Also, some people might want to know what classes they've already taken, and they don't understand that you have to go to the left box up there and click completed to view that.
That is a great point. So under here, if you wanted to see your completed classes, you can go ahead and click here under completed. And these are all the classes I have taken. If you go under active, these are the ones that I'm kind of working on, or maybe I didn't quite click in some of the classes that we do have within Edge. I say that there's sometimes little gnomes in there that don't show that as complete. So if you need to see that it's active in there and you know you completed the class, just to make sure to go back into the class and hit complete. But if you have issues, Julie is a wonderful resource. Sheila is a wonderful resource. John and myself are also able to support as well, and we can kind of help unpack those issues. But thank you so much, John, for mentioning that.
One more, and also I don't want to make it confusing, but that they can also see their completed classes in Volunteer Connection under my profile.
That's a great point. So I'll go ahead and actually show what that means as well. So what Julie was talking about is that when you go into the My Profile tab in Volunteer Connection, see if it wants to be slow or not. There we go. It does not. And you go to training information. You can see all of the training that you've completed here. So you'll see your, I'm going to go ahead and go to your EDGE transcripts. So your EDGE transcripts means your individual classes that you've taken. And then if you go up to your EDGE curriculum, so those are those, again, those bookmarks, those grouped together classes. That is all in here as well. You can see what you've taken if you click these little buttons over here. I took Shelter Fundamentals in 2017. I took that curriculum way back then. And then you can see all of my EDGE transcripts here. So these little buttons back here will show all of that information. And if you have additional training that maybe you took, not so much as a newer volunteer, but if you have been with us before, when we used to have a system called Embark, that was our previous training platform. You can see that information down under here. And that is it. Oh, I also want to mention, if you have taken FEMA training or anything like that, please work with Julie or Sheila within your chapter to make sure we can get you credit for those classes, because we also put that information in your profile. Very important for especially our folks who like to work in external relations, because those are needed to get your group activity positions in those areas. Thank you so much, Julie, for putting that in there. Awesome. Okay. So I will go ahead and I will go to our next fun, amazing system called Microsoft Teams. So I am going to go ahead and unshare and then reshare, because I'm going to actually show a video on how to download it. And there's a few different ways to download it to your computer. So just go ahead and just bear with me. And Sheila, I see your question, and I'll have to look at your profile. I'm not really quite sure, because I know that you've completed all your training to be the LCV supervisor. So I think that there's gnomes in that system. So let me just go ahead and unshare, and I'm going to share again real quick. I'm not going to share my whole screen. There we go. Perfect.
To download Teams to your PC, either your home PC, your desktop, or laptops. So all you have to do is just go into the browser and type in teams.microsoft.com and /downloads. Hit enter. As you can see here, Teams on your desktop, it's just better. And you can click on download Teams or more options. More options, it gives you options to download 32 bits, 64-bit, 32 bits, Mac, Linux RPM, iOS, and Android. So I'm going to download Windows 64-bit. I recommend that you download the 64-bit. So just click on download. So that's one way to download Teams. Another way is you can go into Microsoft Teams. Let's close this out. Let me log out here first. So another way is to go into teams.microsoft.com and hit, oops. team.microsoft.com and hit enter. It's going to ask you to log in with your credential, with your organization UPN. So it could be your email address. So I'm going to log in with Adam at o365.com. Hit enter and log in. I'm going to click yes. It's remember my credential when you click yes. So it's going to take me to Teams, and it's asking me if I want to use the web, get the Windows app, or use the web instead. If I click on get the Windows app, it will download the installation again. So I'm going to use the web instead. And you can also download the Teams client from here. As you can see, this button here on the bottom left corner, say download desktop app. So now let's go back to here. The file has been downloaded. All you have to do is just click on Teams Windows, double click, just click on it. It should install Teams for you. So there's a lot of ways you can download Teams. I just showed you all 3 of them. I think the Teams client is being installed. As you can see here, install Microsoft Teams. Once Teams is installed, it's going to ask you to log in with your credential, with your organization credentials. So you must know what your UPN or your login credential is. Most organizations use the email address as the login. So I'm going to type in Adam at o365.com. Sign in. Enter my password. Sign in. I'm going to minimize the browser. As you can see here, it puts an icon on the desktop as well. Voila, I'm in Teams. So now you can collaborate with your peers from work using Teams on your on your home PC or your desktops or your laptops. Thank you for watching, and if you like the video, please don't forget to subscribe to the channels and have a wonderful day.
Great, everyone. That was just a quick tutorial on how to download Teams, but I'm actually just going to show quickly a few ways that actually how you can use Teams and how we tend to use it here within the organization. So I'm just going to go ahead and share another screen here. Actually, let me share my entire desktop. And I promise no one just gets scared with all of my windows open. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my entire desktop. I hope everyone can kind of see that. So this is the interface that we have with Microsoft Teams. When he was talking about ways that you can collaborate, if you're in different groups, in different teams, so-and-so that you're in, you can kind of see different files that you can work in. If you're assigned to a disaster operation, let me see if I can find an old one I was on. This is a good one. This is our Cameron Peak Fire. So if there were different documents we were working on, such as in workforce, feel like this is probably bringing flashbacks for Sheila. Let me see, that one doesn't have this, what I need in here. So you can see that there's where different folks can ask questions. They can use the chat function. They can put reminders that they've updated different files. You can see some different file sharing abilities in here. So where we put different things. Okay. Another fun thing I like to do in Teams is to chat with people. So if you want to say, just you see someone's online, you want to ask them a question, but you don't want to bombard them with emails. Let's say I want to talk to Julie. Let's see if I can find her. This is what happens when you click really quickly. I say, hey, I want to talk to Julie. And then I can go ahead and ask her some questions if I want to maybe not send her so many emails, if you will. And it's a great way to communicate back and forth with folks. And look, there's John. So one other functionality I definitely encourage to use in Teams. I do want to let everyone know, unless you have a Red Cross email, you won't be able to use all these functionalities in Microsoft Teams. So a Red Cross email is required. You do not need a Red Cross email to join training that we might be offering, or obviously sessions like this. But to use the full functionality in Microsoft Teams, to use that, you do need a Red Cross email. Another thing I like to do too is that if you just want to have a call with someone versus calling them on a phone, you can also set up a quick call with anyone here too. So you can just give them a call as well. Any other questions on Microsoft Teams before I jump into showing a little bit about RC View?
Ashley, this is Julie. Can you take just a step back and show them how to actually get to Teams through Microsoft?
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, let me go ahead. And so let's say you downloaded the, again, I don't get scared with my desktop. So if you have Microsoft Team app already installed, you can go ahead and just double click this and it will show. So that's a great way if you have the app downloaded on your desktop. Another way you can get to Microsoft Teams is following the video the gentleman showed and downloading that piece as well. Does that help answer your question, Julie? I apologize.
Oh, yeah, I guess I'm going back from the very beginning.
No, go ahead. This is what a pilot class is for, to ask lots of questions. So go ahead, Julie.
I remember when I first started, using it. I started by going to Outlook email.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And then and then it asked me to download, I believe. But now that's been a while, so I can't remember how I did it exactly.
So what Julie is talking about, I can definitely do that. I will need to get back into my, this is a way that you can access your Microsoft email. It's called the webmail. So this is another system. This is a good point. So you can go to Microsoft 365 and you can log in here. And I'm already signed into my account, but it will ask you. And so this is your webmail. In your webmail, kind of Microsoft 365, it basically shows you all the apps, all the applications that you have. So if you want to use Microsoft Word, it's right here. Excel, if you want to work in here. These are all available to you if you have a Red Cross email. So just want to make sure I show that. What Julie was talking about is there's also this fun little icon called Microsoft Teams. It's here again. So you can go ahead and click that, and that's another way that you could upload it. Is that what you're talking about, Julie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, it's been a while, but I remember starting that way, and then I think it asked me to download it to my computer.
Yep. And yep, absolutely. So if you want to access it through Microsoft 365, you can click that icon in there, and then you can kind of have the same capability as well. So this is just a web version, if you will. I just use the app version on my desktop. Perfect. Okay. Any more questions? No worries if not. Okay, so the final section that I kind of want to just go over is called RC View. It's basically a way that we kind of look at mapping capabilities and provides really good situational awareness what's happening, maybe even on an operation, or if you just want to find some more information. So RC View is very easy to get to. So if you just want to go ahead and you want to how I do it, RC View. And then you'll just go ahead and click log into RC View. Mine already signed me in, but when you do sign in, it is your same login credentials that you have for Volunteer Connection. And you do not need a Red Cross email to access RC View. Again, same login credentials that you have for Volunteer Connection. So just some things I like to kind of point out is what's kind of going on in the world of Red Cross. You can click that section and you can see all the different DRs that are happening. I think it just needs to upload. Reload it here. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and just make my screen just a little bit bigger. And this is very similar to the other map we saw in Volunteer Connection. But if you just want to know what DRs are going on throughout the country, disaster relief operations, you can see all of that. What's going on in Kansas. Just get out of there. So you can just kind of see what's going on. If you're on a DRO operation, a disaster relief operation, you will have what's called a director's brief, where you can actually see something a little bit different. So let me go ahead and I'll go back out. So if you're assigned to a DR, you'll be able to see, and this will be connected to your incident action plan. So the planning group puts this together. But let me just go ahead and quickly just show. This is for an older DR, 534. This was a Northern California operation. And then you can see what's going on. So if you want to know the weather report that was going on at the time, it just takes a little bit of time. It might be down because this is an old operation. No, it's not. So this is some really, as I kind of cool, interesting information that is going on right now with weather reports. So if you are a weather junkie, there's great information over here. If you have kind of want to know about disaster assessment that might have happened on the operation, you can look here as it loads. So you can see the destroyed, the majors, classifications, and you'll see some other kind of nifty graphics here that are loading. It's still loading. Still loading. So I'm going to go ahead and go there so you can do the population impact. This will have this layer in here too. And the information that will vary a little bit on disaster relief operation, but they will tend to have the same information. So you can, there'll be some drill down information on here. It might not be showing as much because the fire has been put out. So this is older information. But I just kind of wanted to point out, if you get deployed to an operation, this is a useful tool to look at. One interesting dashboard I will say is that you can kind of see how many folks are in shelters. Obviously, our shelters have been closed, but you can kind of see all of that information on different dashboards through RC View. And where you'll see that when you get assigned to a disaster operation, you'll see one more additional kind of map that will show to the right where it says My Maps Colorado, Wyoming. It will usually show there. or if you're assigned, it will also might show incident and DRO map. It just kind of depends on kind of where the planning team puts the little boxes. But so that is RC view. If you want to see just a map of our region, you can see this is where the different chapters are. Just a little information if people wanted to know. That's where the little red cross symbols are, where we have chapter offices as well. You can see the regional boundary and then our chapter boundaries too. Focus in if you want to see a little bit more information. Okay, so that is kind of the quick tutorial that I have lined up. I am definitely open for questions and feedback, but I am going to go ahead and leave it open to everyone to ask questions.
Ashley?
Yes, Julie.
Julie, just going back to when they do get the Red Cross email address, just a reminder that they need to use it periodically, otherwise it gets inactivated.
Yes, thank you so much for mentioning that, Julie. We do ask if you get a Red Cross email to log in every 60 days. Otherwise, it can go into what's called a dormant kind of period, if you will. And we just have to reactivate it with IT through a couple of steps. So if you get a Red Cross email, just make sure that you are signing into it so it doesn't go dormant and we have to reactivate it. Thank you so much for pointing that out. Okay, I will stay on the line for questions. Don't be shy. Don't feel shy about providing feedback. This is a trial run we wanted to do for folks. We've heard that there's been an interest in having something like this, so we definitely want to make sure that we are providing this opportunity and making it and improving it for our volunteers. So we're always consistently trying to improve for folks.
Ashley, I think it was great. Just want all the volunteers not to get overwhelmed because there is a lot of information.
That is very true.
Ashley, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Okay, this is Kathleen Kerrigan. Can you please again define when we need to use a Red Cross email and when we can use our personal email?
I would say there's not really a good, I would say probably the best rule of practice that I can give is that if you're conducting Red Cross business, and especially reaching out to partners, reaching out to peer-to-peer volunteers, try to use your Red Cross email. If you're doing peer-to-peer interaction, it is totally fine to use your personal email. I would say, but if you are on like our dispatch duty officers and you're pushing out a large communication to members about a response that happened, or if you're communicating with partners, please use your Red Cross email so if folks know it is coming from the Red Cross, if that makes sense. That would probably be my best rule of thumb. Okay, so when we get training notices, those notices will come to our personal emails. So if you get notification of training, actually, or any communication from the Red Cross, it will always go to what you have in your primary email in Volunteer Connection. So if that is your personal email, all of the communication will go there. There is a section in Volunteer Connection under My Profile. So if you have 2 emails put in there, let me go ahead and show that. It will go to both emails. So okay. That is what, depending on what you have kind of input in Volunteer Connection, if you go to edit, and then you put a secondary email. So let's say I'll put my Metro State one in there. Let's just put that in there. And then you can send to both. Okay. So that's what will happen. I will say again, just to kind of, if you get deployed to an operation and you use all communication will only go to your primary email. It won't go to your secondary. Okay, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Any other questions?
Do you anticipate doing this again in the near future?
I am actually, John and I are going to work on trying to just make this a little bit better. But we plan on, this was our pilot version of this class, and seeing how we can get some feedback from you all and how we can make it a little bit better, making sure that this is kind of a standard thing that we do within our region, because I know it can be a lot. And whatever we can do to help you.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
I put in a question in the chat, but maybe you didn't see it yet. You mentioned the acronym list,
Mm-hmm.
and where do you find it?
So I'll go ahead. I think the file is not too big.
You have to do this a little slower for some of us.
That is good feedback. I have known to sometimes be a quick talker. So I will say you could just go ahead and go to the All Colorado Wyoming region, members, volunteers, and employees. So you'll go there, then go to files.
Okay.
And then go to disaster responder tools. And that's where some nifty little tools are, including the acronym listing. So as those get updated for national headquarters, I actually upload those.
Okay, thank you. That
Absolutely.
was
Not a worry. Perfect.
Ashley, this is Bill O'Connor. I've got a question for you.
Sure, absolutely.
I'm a newbie. I'm probably less than 2 weeks into the volunteer program or volunteer process.
Okay.
And my home screen does not show anything beyond home and profile. So I'm assuming that's just a process problem, not a IT problem.
I would say so. So just real quick, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So when you go to your home screen, what does it show?
Just has home in my profile.
Okay, I'll have to look into that. Julie, maybe you and I can kind of unpack that for Bill.
We need, maybe could it be, I need to check if he's still a prospective volunteer?
That would probably be it. Yeah, that's what I would get.
Yeah, the emails I've received so far is that everything has been accepted. It's just the orientation I think is tomorrow afternoon. It's not a problem. I understood I'm a volunteer in other organizations, so all of this is not, I mean, it didn't overwhelm me.
I appreciate it.
Bill, this is Julie. Have you had your interview with Gerda Wilcox?
Yes, no, I haven't had it yet. It's tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock.
Okay, perfect. Yep, then you're on the path.
Okay.
Now we just need to work on your intake path and get it completed.
No problem. It's good information.
Perfect. Excellent. Any other questions? All right. Well, I will definitely stay on if there are any more. We definitely want to make sure that we can make this a little bit of a better training, because we are going to kind of keep launching this out and keep on going with this. So I hope this was helpful to everyone. If you have questions, just let us know. Us, as in myself, Julie, and Sheila, are always there to support, and John. So, but again, if you have questions, I'll stick on the line.
Thanks, Ashley. Yeah, Kathleen again. I just Googled Red Cross acronyms.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's more very easy and direct. Is this list, do you know if this list is the same as jumping through hoops on the Red Cross, whatever?
So I would say I'm not sure which, there's a kind of a couple different iterations of the acronym listing that I've seen out there. So I tend to just pull the one that I've seen available on the exchange. So I'm not sure which, what listing that one is. So that is, I usually tend to look, I pull the one off the exchange.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Absolutely. Okay. I don't want to, feel free to jump off if you don't have any other questions. But again, I will stick on if there are any.
Thank you, Ashley.
Absolutely.
Ashley,
Yes.
um, when everybody kind of drops up, I do have a question about the meeting recordings and how to share those.
Mm-hmm.
Because I tried to share, I sent the link to one of our volunteers who has Red Cross email, and it says that she doesn't have authorized access. So I'm not quite sure how I should, the best way to share those meetings, you know, like an orientation or shelter strike team. I don't know how to upload it to the channel without.
Okay, yeah. Let's kind of stay on the line, Julie, and we can kind of see. If I think I know what it is, but we can check.
Okay, so but I'll wait.
No worries.
How do you go directly to your Red Cross email? Make sure and keep it active.
So you want to go ahead. So there's the one place that I would say is just go ahead and, you know, being very open and honest, just look at Microsoft 365. Go ahead and type in there. And then what it will do is show let me see if I can do it here because I'll log out. I can sign out. And it might want to just keep me logged in just because of where I'm in. You'll have a screen that will kind of show like something in the background. Let me see if I can sign back in. Okay. You'll want to go ahead and just sign in.
So this is Microsoft 365?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then it will take you to a screen to just type in your, very similar to this, and you'll just go ahead and
Now wait, you went into Microsoft 365. How did you get to this screen?
So there's an option that just says right here on the home screen that says sign in.
Yeah.
And if you have a Hotmail account or a university account, it will ask you to select different ones. So just make sure your Red Cross one is the one that's selected, and then it will take you to this option.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Cool, Julie, and we'll see. And I'll have you maybe share your screen. I'm gonna stop recording.